Assalamu alaikum. I happened to watch Sahil Adeem's The Awakening tour and his long speech that was delivered in different parts of the UK. And I just want to inform British Muslim and Muslim in Western world and India as well that they should be aware of these agents of hatred. He used this occasion to spit venom against secularism, lambasting secularist and offering a critique of secularism in most vitriolic way. Sahil Adeem is one of the most ignorant YouTubers that I have seen, and he loves to make tall claims, issue sweeping statement without substantiating his arguments with facts and figures. And most of his facts and figures turn out to be absolutely incorrect. For instance, in one of his assertions, he said that Ashraf Ali Thanvi wrote 1400 books with each carrying 3 and 4 volumes and consisting of more than 3 and 400 pages. That makes Ashraf Ali Thanvi the most prolific writer of human history, because that might mean that he must have written more than 500,000 or maybe around 1 million pages. Bertrand Russell, who was a very prolific writer, did not write that many books. His books might have run into dozens. Noam Chomsky, the great philosopher and a graduate of MIT, who is considered the most cited living intellectual, he has also written more than 74 books. Maulana Maududi used to be a prolific writer, but even he did not hit 1400 mark. So this guy, most of his assertions are untrue. So that's why Muslims in the UK and the Western world must take his claims with a pinch of salt. In the same way, he described more than 90% Pakistani women as illiterate. He is a new version of people like Maulana Maududi or Maulana Qutub, or in a way he's trying to propagate the same ideology which was propounded by Osama and Abu Musab Zarqawi, talking about political Islam, imposition of political Islam, spitting venom against secularism and liberalism. While liberalism may not be an ideal system, there are horrors in liberalism, but the most obnoxious invention of liberalism were atomic weapons. But interestingly, this guy who wants to seek global dominance and who wants to make speeches on that, making money out of that, touring different parts of the world, and instigating Muslim in a way to rise against secularism that has provided protection to Muslims in Western world. It is secularism in reality that has provided protection to Muslims in different parts of non-Muslim world. If you look at his like credentials and his life, it is full of contradiction. While he talks about imposition of Sharia, he does not want to go to Afghanistan, where, and he believes that Sharia has already been imposed in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have converted the life of women into hell, closing down all schools beyond grade 6. And this guy, in one of his videos, admitted that Afghanistan has already got Sharia, but he does not want to go there. He talks about secularism and spit venom against secularism, but he himself is a Canadian national, has lived there in that country. And there is another YouTuber who also spits venom against secularism, but he has taken the nationality of Netherlands. So this is a sheer hypocrisy. Then he talks about the government of clergy or the mullah. He said that, tell me even a single country where clerics are ruling. And he's so ignorant that he does not know that in Guardian Council of Iran, it is the mullah of Qums, or vast majority of Qum mullah, who are ruling. In the same way, in Afghanistan, it is Mullah Haibatullah Khan was himself a teacher. Akhundzada himself, Akhund, the prime minister, he is also a mullah. And a number of cabinet members in Afghanistan, they were mullah themselves. So there is a government of a scholar, which is terrible, right? Which is one of the most terrible governments the world has ever produced. These are the guys and the Taliban who have imposed their Sharia, while they have put women in prison, in a sense that they cannot get education, they cannot do jobs, they cannot do businesses, they cannot go out unaccompanied. These were the laws that were introduced in Saudi Arabia, but even they are replacing it. So Afghan Taliban, on the one hand, are subjecting Afghan women to this type of treatment, but when a Qatari princess landed there, at that time they forgot all Sharia and they were just standing in a line to welcome her, because Qatar perhaps gives them dollars, so that's why they are just worshipping Qatar. So now, coming to the point of secularism, when he spits venom against secularism, he does not talk about history of Western world, because this guy, I would be surprised if he has ever read any book completely. The reason as to why secularism emerged in Europe has historical roots, and there are a lot of reasons. For instance, for a very long time, Europe witnessed religious government, which is called papacy, and the rule of papacy was very brutal. It's very tyrannical in nature, and you must have heard scientists like Galileo, Copernicus, Kepler, Jan Hus or John Hus, Thomas Moinzer, and all that. So John Hus was burned alive because he raised questions to the authority of the clergy. In the same way, Galileo, Kepler, Copernicus were persecuted because Galileo was the first who said that Earth rotates around the sun. And Sahil Adeem cannot prove that there has been any religious government in the history of mankind. What emerged in the name of religion has always been a sectarian government. For instance, Iranian government is an Islamic government. I would like to ask Sahil Adeem, tell me even a single Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki who is the member of the Guardian Council or Shura in Nigeban that makes a crucial decision. So that is essentially confined to a Shiite. For instance, a religious government would be the one where members of all sect have right to make it to the high echelon of power, but that's not the case in Iran. The 1990s government of Afghan Taliban was essentially a Deobandi government that was not a religious government again, because all the members of the Shura, they were from Deobandi school of thought. Many of them had graduated from Akoda Khatak Jamia Haqqaniya, close to Peshawar, and some of them were the students of Mufti Nizamuddin Shamsi from Darul Uloom Banuria town in Karachi. So that was essentially a Deobandi government. Vatican City, again, it is called a religious government, but you cannot find any Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Jacobite, Maronite, Protestant, Lutheran, or Calvinist. It is only confined to Roman Catholic government. During the time of then Saudi Arabia, for a long time, it is still a religious government, but for a long time, it was a religious government. And you cannot name even a single person in the Shura who was Hanafi or even Deobandi or even Shiite. So that was essentially a Wahhabi government. So what emerges in the name of religion is a sectarian government. And Europe for a long time had sectarian governments, and there had been terrible fight which Sahil Adeem does not want to read, or which he did not bother to read. For instance, during the 16th century, from almost 1618 to 1648, for 30 years there were terrible wars. They are known as religious wars, and they are also known as 30-year war. More than 3 million people lost their life. Between 3 million to 8 million people lost their lives. So when Europe had religious government, does Sahil Adeem want to tell people what was the condition when Europe in reality established the religious government, and what were the implications especially for minorities? And the Muslim living in UK, in Western world, must know that. In 1492, when Isabella and Ferdinand, their united army, conquered Al-Andalusia, or southern Spain, where different Muslim city-state had been ruling for more than 700 years. They came in 711 there. and then gradually they started establishing different government there under the Muslims. In Al Andalusia or southern Spain, of course, there were still some discriminatory laws, but Jews enjoyed complete religious freedom. Christian enjoyed complete religious freedom, and there were some Jewish officials who made it in some city state to high echelon of power. Some of them were serving as the advisor of Amir or the caliph of certain states. And in the same way, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish philosophers, and even atheists, those who did not believe in any god, they carried out joint venture, joint intellectual venture, doing research on Greek philosophy, on Greek materialist philosopher, on different sciences. They collectively work essentially in practice. Of course, they were religious. In practice, they were secular government. But when Isabella and Ferdinand conquered those parts, they kicked out Muslim. First, they say that either they should convert to Christianity. Some of them did convert, and others had to leave. Other had to leave, going to North Africa and other parts of the world. And the same was the case with the Jewish. The Jewish people converted to Christianity and came to be known as crypto Jews. Some of them would practice Judaism still in secret. So finally, they were all kicked out. And then, of course, during 16th century, there were the rise of Europe witnessed the rise of Protestantism, the emergence of Protestantism. In subsequent decades, it emerged. It witnessed the rise of Protestantism, and there were terrible wars across the continents. So, in one instance, more than 10,000 people, Protestant, were burnt alive in France alone, right? And during the crusade, which was essentially motivated by religious feelings, you see in Germany, in one instance, more than 2,000 Jews, some historians say 5,000 Jews were burnt while Christians were going to Jerusalem to, liberate it from the Muslim domination. So this was the time of the religious government. In Afghanistan, when a religious government during the decade of 90s came into power, they carried out a ruthless massacre of the Hazara Shiite in Bamiyan and other parts of the country. They also, discriminated against Sikh, who had been living there for hundreds of years, for more than 100 years. And there were also other minority people who had to leave Afghanistan. So imagine, now this is what white supremacists and some far right are also saying in Europe. They are invoking Christians' terminologies to rubbish against Muslim, to spit venom against Muslim. Imagine if there is a government in Europe. If Sahil Adeem says that there should be a religious government of Muslim, the Christian will also say that there should be a Christian government in Europe. What will happen to the Muslim? This is what Muslim living in North America and Western world should think over before spitting venom or before buying this ideology of hate that is being propagated by Sahil Adeem and the company. They are spitting venom against secularism. They themselves have nationality of secular country. They themselves want to live in a secular country, but they want to destroy other Muslim by instigating them to rise against secular traditions. It is because of secularism that Sadiq Khan is the mayor of London. It is because secularism that a Hindu became the prime minister of UK. It is because secularism that many Sikh and Muslim hold, parliamentary position in Canada. So Muslim fundamentalists like Sahil Adeem and Kaisar Ahmad Raja in Pakistan, and Christian fundamentalists like Charlie Kirk in one way or another way, and Tommy Robinson, far right activists. They are all invoking religious connotations. They are all invoking religious symbols to subjugate other people. That's why Muslims should be aware of them. Muslim living in India, in Pakistan, in Western world, especially, they should be aware of this hatred. Imagine if there is a purely Hindu government in India. There are Hindutva activists who say that we will consign Muslim or we will relegate them to the status of second class citizen. They will be Malich and Chodar. Some mullah during the decade of 70s did say that they are not bothered whether Hindus treat Muslim like Malich or Shudar. They just wanted Islamic system in Pakistan. So Sahil Adeem is trying to propagate the same ideology which was propagated by Al Qaeda, which was propagated by Daesh or Islamic State, which was propagated by Maulana Modudi, Qutub, and other people. What was that? Political Islam, seeking global domination, subjugating other people, imposing a certain brand of religion, a certain interpretation of religion. And this guy has himself admitted that there is Sharia in Afghanistan. So does it mean that he wants to impose a government in Western world and in Muslim countries that is like Afghan Taliban, who are ignorant to the extent that they burned television set and computers on a massive scale during the decades of 90s. Even today, they are banning internet, saying that it was not internet was not or was not existent during the time of Prophet Muhammad and the Sahaba or the companion. So the big cars that Taliban are using, the big helicopters that they are using, the big electricity suppliers that they are using, they were all non-existent during the time of the companion, but they are using them. So they are just using religion to achieve their political interests. Now the problem is that why cannot be there any religious government? Why you cannot impose a religious government? Because if you want to impose if you want to impose anything, you need two factors: A, consensus; B, force. So we can have consensus on our day-to-day affairs that education should be free, everyone should have access to primary health care, to free health care, housing should be decent, and pure drinking water should be a right, employment should be a right. But if you are Roman Catholic and I'm Protestant, and if you venerate some images and I say that that is against Christianity, what will I do? If I come into power, I will demolish those all images and I will not let you worship because you are Roman Catholic. And this is what exactly happened. If you look at history of Europe, this is what exactly happened. That in France, Protestant were persecuted. Then in England, Roman Catholic were persecuted. When Catholic came into power, they persecuted, Protestant. And this went on and on for a very long time. So in order to impose something, you need number one, consensus, number two, force. Now, if and Sahil Adeem does not talk about these issues, they are very important issue. If you are Barelvi and you say that I have divorced my wife and now I want to do halala and I am Wahhabi or I am Wahhabi, followers of Abdul Wahab Najdi, I would say that this is prostitution. What would be your next step? Your next step would be you will slap me. So whenever you try to impose religion, it will always try to create social chaos. Now Sahil Adeem might say this is very petty issues. All right, shirk is the most important point, right? It is like some scholars say that it is unpardonable sin. Ibn Taymiyyah considered Barelvi, today's Barelvi, those who go to Shrine or those who believe that Muhammad, peace be upon, is omnipresent, or he listens to our prayers, or he can recommend for us to God, they believe that they are mushrik. He declared Shiite in a way non-Muslim, Barelvis in a way non-Muslim, Asharite in a way non-Muslim. Even today, if you look at the fatwas of Wahhabi or Deobandi scholars, they consider Barelvis or the followers Imam Abu Hanifa, who constitute an overwhelming majority of the Muslim world, maybe more than 50%. From Wahhabi point of view, they are mushrik, they are polytheist, because they share the authority of God with Muhammad, peace be upon him, and saint and mystic. So they are out of Islam. Shiite also say Ya Ali, and according to Wahhabi, if you say Ya, it means that you are sharing Ali's authority, God's authority with Ali. So they are also non-Muslim. And then Deobandi and Barelvi have dispute over Taraweeh and so many other issues over the issue of divorce. So the problem is whoever comes into power, he will try to impose his brand of Islam as Taliban did in Afghanistan, as Shiite did in Iran, as Saudis or Maulana Abdul Wahab Najdi, as Najdi's followers did in Saudi Arabia. That's why religion should be your private matter. How would you define religion? Relationships between your heart and God is your religion. And many scholars argue that Quran also talks about, Islam also talks about secularism, citing the contract of Medina or Misake Medina, where Prophet, peace be upon him, granted complete religious freedom to Jews, going to the extent, according to some scholars, going to the extent of declaring all the residents of Medina as part of Ummah, including Christians, Muslims, or non-believers. So this is of course disputed, but there are people who believe that he declared all of them Ummah. Now they never cite people like who are opposing secularism. They never cite Misake Medina. You will never hear that. Or they might say, oh, Muslims were not in power at that time, so that's why. For us, the greatest example is the example of Prophet. Then he talks about Umar bin Khattab a lot, but since he's an ignorant person, when Umar bin Khattab met Sophronius before conquering Jerusalem, he asked, where are the Jews who used to live there? Because the Christians living there, they had already kicked out Jews. So Umar bin Khattab asked one of the Muslims who had converted from Judaism to find out Jews, and he resettled them. And then when Sophronius asked him to pray in church, he refused to do that. He said that if I start praying in your church, tomorrow Muslim will demolish it. And because Umar had performed prayer there. So today, will any mullah say, today we have mullah in Pakistan who create a sort of a political storm. If a temple is being constructed on Hindu places that was bought by Hindus, let alone Muslim, let alone state. So Hazrat Umar brought back those Jews who had been kicked out by Christians. He resettled them. He allowed complete religious freedom there. He said only those who were fighting, who were armed, they should just leave the city. So this is the problem, that if Muslims pay heed to the rhetoric of people like Sahil Adeem, who spits venom against secularism, who describes women, Pakistani women, as illiterate, or rather described in a live TV show, who believes in the type of Sharia that has been imposed by Afghan Taliban. He believes that every woman should be, more or less, if you look at his videos, so it gives you an impression that he wants all the women to be put in shuttlecock. So do Muslims living in a Western world want their women to be in shuttlecock? Do they want a Christian government in Europe then, if they want religious government in Afghanistan with no rights for minorities? So do they want a type of government that was introduced by Isabella and Ferdinand? Do they want a type of the government that were introduced by Protestant and Roman Catholic, where they were killing each other? So there are good examples in the Muslim history. For instance, Emperor Akbar during the 16th century, when Roman Catholic and Protestant were slaughtering each other, there were people from different religions, from different school of thought in the court of Akbar debating and talking about different issue. Zainul Abidin, a Muslim king in Kashmir, he was also very tolerant towards all religion. He's called Akbar of Kashmir. So in the same way, Muslim ruling over Al-Andalusia, they were very tolerant even during some tenures of Ottoman Emperor. Jews and other non-Muslim, they enjoyed complete religious freedom, to the extent that for a very long time Christians constituted 60% of the population of the areas falling under the domination of Muslim. So we have to be aware Muslim did have secular values, and secularism is not against religion. They try to misinterpret secularism. Secularism simply say that if you want to become a senior official in government department, there is a certain requirement. If you meet that requirement, there may be a certain examination. If you pass that examination, the state is not going to ask whether you are white or black, man or woman, Muslim or non-Muslim. You can have that. In the same way, if you want to become the prime minister of any country, if people vote you, so no matter what is your color, caste, creed, religion, you can become the prime minister. It was one of the reasons as to why Rishi Sunak, who was a Hindu, he became the prime minister of the UK. It was because of this that Sadiq Khan, who is Muslim, and there are many mayors in the UK who are Muslim. It was because of this that some Muslim made it to high echelon of power in India during the time of Congress. Now the brothers, ideological brother of Sahil Adeem, are ruling over India. So you can see what is happening there. So Indian Muslim in Western world should not be fooled by the rhetoric of Sahil Adeem. They must take his claim with pinch of salt and also keep his own assertion that he spits venom against secularism, but he himself is holding a Canadian nationality. He does not want to go to Afghanistan. If he really loves that Sharia, why doesn't he go to Afghanistan then? That have He has admitted that Afghanistan has Sharia, so he should go there. He will never go there. In the same way, Kaisar Ahmad Raja, another YouTuber holding Netherlands nationality, he also spits venom against secularism. Today, if there are World Islamic Mission head office or central offices in Canada, it is because of Canada or US, it is because of secularism. If Dawat Islami can preach across Europe, it is because of secularism. If Tablighi Jamaat can preach across the world, in Christian world, it is because of secularism. But unfortunately, Muslim world do not want to give equal freedoms to minorities. And it is because of the people like Sahil Adeem, like Kaisar Ahmad Raja, who spit venoms against it. These Tablighi Jamaat, can they go to Iran? Dawat Islami, which is a Barelvi outfit, can it go to Afghanistan and preach? Can they go to Vatican City and preach? Dawat Islami, which is a Barelvi organization, can it go to Saudi Arabia and preach? Or any Shiite religious group, can it go to Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan? So it means that these are sectarian government which Sahil Adeem will not tell you. So for the God's sake, try to draw positive lesson from the history of Western world, which had the religious government and sectarian government for more than 1000 years. And finally, it concluded that religion should be your private matter, because the moment you try to impose it, it will always result in social chaos, sectarianism, and bloodshed.